Welcome back. As we look ahead to Memorial Day, I want to share the story of a Vermont veteran. Lieutenant Mark Dooley was killed in Iraq on September 19, 2005. He had been riding in an armored vehicle when an IED killed him and two other Army National Guard soldiers. The first lieutenant with the Vermont Army National Guard was 27 years old at the time. Before his deployment, he wrote his family a letter in case of his death. I want to read you an excerpt from that letter. It is immensely hard to put into words raw emotion or put down on one piece of paper what you want people to remember you by. However, if you're reading this, then I am not able to convey either in person. Please forgive me for not being able to be there, but also remember that my leaving was in the service of something that we loved and that most people can't comprehend its scope. Cherish in your heart that it wasn't done for any abstract reason like a flag or foreign government success, but our sacred honor. Time will ease pain, and the best way to pay respect is to value why a sacrifice was made. Part of that letter was read by former President George W. Bush during a Memorial Day ceremony in 2006. That same year, Dooley's family decided to have the Army veteran buried in Arlington National Cemetery. Lieutenant Dooley, thank you for your service to our country. Lieutenant Dooley is one of almost a dozen Vermont Army National Guard soldiers honored at the Fallen Heroes Memorial at Camp Johnson in Colchester. For Gold Star families like the Dooleys, every day is Memorial Day. And every day, anybody who would like to can pay their respects at this solemn place on the National Guard base. Just beyond the entrance of Camp Johnson in Colchester.
So each one of these tells a story.
Major General Gregory Knight tells the stories of people he'll never forget.
Ryan Grady was killed by an IED. You see people leave coins, things like that. And once a year we'll come out and we'll collect them all. John Stone, a magnificent senior non-commissioned officer, was killed by small arms fire.
These are some of the names of the men and women who made the ultimate sacrifice, soldiers killed in the line of duty. Their names will forever live on these walls.
So this is our Vermont Fallen Heroes Memorial, and it memorializes the service and sacrifice of the folks you see depicted behind us. This is our place of remembrance. It's a solemn place for people, families in particular, our Gold Star families, and those that want to remember their friends and colleagues to come and pay tribute and remember their service. He was in direct fire. Jamie Gray, I think he was also, those three, all in Iskandariyah, were that same mortar attack.
In honor of Memorial Day, sharing these stories is a sobering reminder that freedom isn't free.
Memorial Day is an opportunity that once a year for our country as a nation to remember those that have served and have made the ultimate sacrifice. For us here in the Guard, I think we're a little closer to it. Personally, I remember them every day. I serve with a lot of these folks. They're great colleagues, fantastic soldiers, but the level of sacrifice and what they faced is incredible. Knowing the dangers, they still went out and served. I could tell you about Lieutenant Mark Procopio, who was on patrol in Ramadi, Iraq. I served with him there, our Task Force Sabre, and a Marine Corps helicopter gunship had gone down, and the status of the crew was unknown. And knowing the dangers, Mark made the decision to try to get to the crash site, and that was where he lost his life. For me, it speaks volumes of the character of service and the people that we have in this organization, that they're willing to take that risk, knowing the dangers, to try to get to help somebody else.
That's the reason we should all take a moment this upcoming Monday to reflect on their service and sacrifice.
I will tell you, were it not, it's not just true in the United States, but if you look across the globe, how many countries are now living free as democracies or constitutional republics because of the efforts of our veterans who deployed to keep them free? That's not lost on me. And no matter how it ended up, those people that we served for and with, they had a glimpse of what freedom looked like, at least for a little while. That our folks are able to kind of step up and understand the challenges that comes with service and still raise their hand, swear an oath, and go and do the job. That's pretty profound to me.
What are you doing here at the Guard on Memorial Day to honor those who gave the ultimate sacrifice?
So we'll do what we do every year. We're going to invite our Gold Star families, and we're certainly going to invite the governor, our honorary commanders, but it's open to anybody who wants to come. And we'll do remembrance here like we do every year. I think it's important.
Yeah. I noticed when we were walking up here, a lot of these bricks have, people's names on them. Talk about that. When did this start?
So this was shortly after I had returned from Iraq, and I believe it was General Drew at the time proposed building a memorial, and I think there were a number of folks that were in support of that, certainly our Gold Star families. And this was the genesis, was you can buy a brick, and all of that went into the creation, design and building of our memorial.
A main component of this memorial are these names.
So the plaques, these are our fallen, has their rank, their name, the organization that they served with, their location, and the date of their death. And it's, again, it's something for us to remember. It's here, it's a memorial of forever. And that was the whole point. We didn't want to build something that was going to be temporary or transitional, just like Arlington National Cemetery. While very small, I still think it's incredibly important for us as an organization, as a state, to remember those that have gone before us.
Absolutely.
And have made the ultimate sacrifice.
Definitely. And I'm sure you've talked with a lot of the Gold Star families. I'm sure some of these veterans have grave sites where a family could go and pay their respects. But what does having a memorial like this also mean to those families, to have maybe a second place to come and maybe touch a name and to think about their loved one?
Well, I mean, that's, to me, is our contribution. Again, it's about remembrance. It's about honoring their service and their sacrifice. Not everybody can get to Arlington National Cemetery. Our cemetery, the Veterans Cemetery in Randolph, it's a magnificent place, but you don't always get there. It's nice to go visit old friends. I'll do that when I go to Arlington. Certainly, I'll be down in Randolph. But here, it's a centralized location for folks, and we actually moved the memorial last year to get it to where people have better access to it without having to go through all the security.
And if you can't make it to the Guard Base for its Memorial Day ceremony, consider taking some time out of your day to attend a parade or a cookout while keeping the meaning of this holiday top of mind.
I think it's great, and I think unfortunately, earlier in my career with the Vermont Guard, we had a lot of requests for public speakers, and in particular those that have deployed and served, at the call of their nation. Those requests have kind of tapered off in the past few years. I would love to see us go back to that and let them tell their story. There's so much goodness in this organization. There's so much goodness and professionalism in the folks that choose to serve in this Guard. Let them tell their story and ask them why they served. I think that's an important message.
I know you know people who have given the ultimate sacrifice. And if you could talk to them again or share a message to one of your friends again, what would you want them to know?
Well, know that we love them and appreciate their service. I think, we're a very structured organization, very hierarchical, because that's the military. But I have made it a point since I've been in this job to express appreciation for folks when they're doing good work, simply saying thank you, sending a letter, presenting one of my adjutants, General Coins, for their service. That's the least I can do.
Sharing their stories.
You ask why Memorial Day is important? That's why.
Yeah.
Yep. He was looking out for his colleagues.
It's why we're saluting our fallen heroes every Memorial Day.